Hello LEGO Space fans! Welcome to another video by Minifigs in Space. I'm your host, Brian, and today we are once again returning to LEGO Space Police. Considering that we have recently covered the lore behind LEGO Blacktron, I figured it would be a great opportunity to also jump into the lore behind LEGO Space Police, as there is a little bit of overlap between the two factions. As part of this lore coverage, we'll also be glancing through some rare Space Police 3 comics, in addition to some characters that you may have never known were part of LEGO Space Police. Spoilers aside, let's jump back to Space Police 1, which takes place not long after the dawn of Classic Space. We first learn of the Space Police when they come to the rescue of Futron explorers who are facing acts of sabotage from Blacktron spacemen. The Space Police are shown to be very proud of their space lockup technology, which is a fancy way of saying a high-tech prison cell. Unlike Blacktron, Space Police is very black and white. They just are police in space, so there's not a whole lot of background lore to them. The one detail I did find is that they were established by what is called the Galactic Council. Unfortunately, we don't have any more information on the Galactic Council other than they help establish law and order in the universe, and they have designated police to carry this out. Not long after LEGO Blacktron got an upgrade to Blacktron Future Generation, the Space Police had to also get an upgrade to match this growing threat of technological power. One thing I find interesting is Space Police upgraded to green just like LEGO Blacktron, except their green is a darker shade of green. The Space Police ships also got an upgrade, or as some would consider, a downgrade, because they have even less weapons and radar equipment than even the previous generation. Which is a little puzzling to me, considering that Blacktron by this point has grown into more of a military force. Who knows, maybe the Space Police have gotten very skilled and turning their ships into battering rams. Considering that we have not heard much more about the Blacktron military force, I would assume that Space Police 2 was victorious and squashed the invasion. And then, after Space Police 2, there was silence. It would be many years until the sirens of Space Police were heard once again. Enter into Space Police 3, and wow, did they return strong. These officers have a much better design, both for their ships and for their suits. And speaking of suits, there are technically two variants. The first wave had the standard biker helmet, and the second wave brought us the Commandos with a fully enclosed helmet that would be later reused for Alien Conquest and Galaxy Squad. You are probably wondering what's up with the frog, and the answer is that the frog is called the Sniffer Frog, and it is basically the equivalent of a dog that helps sniff out crooks, but it's I guess you could say a mutated amphibian that has an enhanced sense of smell and assumingly better obedience than a normal frog. Much like the original two waves, Space Police 3 does not have any specifically named characters for the officers, which as a kid wasn't an issue for me at all, as I made one officer into a minifigure of myself personally. We do know that there is a Space Police Chief, and also a character known as the Watch Commander from the LEGO Clutch Powers movie. There are two named robots, one is K99 and the other is the K9 Bot. Thanks to the Clutch Powers movie, we know that Clutch Powers has had interactions with the Space Police, which means that Space Police is also connected to a bunch of other themes such as Ninjago and Power Miners, just to name a couple. However, in my opinion, where the story world really shines for Space Police 3 is with the alien characters, as they are all named and have very complex backgrounds. Rench here is the hired muscle of the Space Biker Gang, which is a subset of the Black Hole Gang, which we'll get to in a moment. He is described as not being the brightest star in the galaxy, but he is really good at smashing things, assuming he has a blunt enough tool to smash them with. Rench is wanted for the crimes of smashing planetoids, bashing ultra-steel barriers, and crunching prison pod walls. Rench so happens to be a very distant cousin of Kranxx, who is the Space Biker Gang leader. Kranxx is known to have very lousy table manners and is known to be very smelly, especially his breath. However, he is not in the criminal business for getting fame or making a lot of money. He just likes to cause trouble. He is wanted for the crimes of grand theft spaceship, intergalactic gambling, and illegal robot rustling. Next up, we have another member of the Space Biker Gang, and this is Slizer. Slizer is the biker gang's mechanic, and the police are out to get him so that they can cripple the fleet of the Space Bikers. He is wanted for the crimes of statue stealing, satellite vandalism, and possession of a plasma torpedo. Next up, we have Snake, who is a professional hacker and an excellent data thief. He has very complex compound eyes that can see across the entire electromagnetic spectrum. Snake is wanted for the crimes of stealing a space police laser cannon, leaving the scene of a black hole, and refusing to tip at space diners. I have to say, that last one is a little weird. I don't think that should be considered a crime, but that's coming from someone who's a pretty lousy tipper to begin with. One thing I have to point out is Snake's helmet seems to be a modified classic space helmet, with the back cut out a little bit and the front and sides having some extra metal spikes welded on. So it makes me wonder what the story is behind this. Next up, we have a trio of very interesting skull helmeted villains. First up are the Skull Twins, and they live for speed, and they are really good at breaking speed records and speed laws. It is specifically mentioned that they are clones, and implied that there might be more clones of them out there somewhere. They are wanted for rocket hot wiring, trying to upgrade their Skull Interceptor with a stolen faster-than-light engine, and for moon mounting, and for asteroid drag racing, and hyperspeeding. The third skull helmeted villain is known as Kranxx, and I've already covered his lore in another video, which you can find in the link right here. This infamous villain is known as Squidman, and he calls himself the King of the Squidmen, which is quite ironic because it is reported that nobody has ever seen any other species like him. Squidman is all about quick money schemes and is never hesitant to get his hands on gold, no matter how illegal it is. So it is no surprise that he is known for gold theft, gold forging, and gold smuggling. He apparently got tired of being the only known member of his species, so he went ahead and made a robotic copy of him known as Squidtron. Now, Squidtron developed a mind of his own and wanted to be even more evil than Squidman himself. So, Squidtron 1.0 rebelled and went out to create his own crime career. Alas, Squidman ended up not being the only member of his species after all, and I can only imagine that this King of the Squidman has finally found his lost subject to boss around. Next, we have Frenzy, who, I regret to inform you, is missing 2 of his 4 arms. So here is my custom mutant version of Frenzy, which personally I think looks better than burnt arms. Frenzy is a very interesting character because he doesn't steal things for wealth or anything in particular. He's just looking for his next meal, and he is known for munching down valuables. He is wanted for the crimes of lasering and entering, unlawful meteor munching, and impersonating a Venusian. Next up, we have Jawson, who is the henchman for the big boss of the Black Hole Gang. Jawson is not only very unintelligent, he is also very forgetful. So, as long as he remembers what his task is, he can usually carry it out by smashing things because he is also very strong and has an incredible bite. He is wanted for the crimes of breaking into Astro Jail, breaking out of said Astro Jail, and remembering what he came for and breaking back into Astro Jail again. Wow, what a life for someone who is said to be stronger than a herd of space elephants. And the last, but certainly not least, Black Hole Gang member is the leader himself, Brick Daddy. Brick Daddy likes everything purple, and his crimes are pan-galactic space racketeering, running 8 different space crook mobs, and tax evasion. It is said that no space police officer has seen his face in person, and since his hat is made to rotate perfectly over the front of his eyes, I am assuming that whenever an officer comes close, he pulls down his hat until the officer can be whisked away. Before we wrap up this section on Space Police 3, here are a couple comics for Space Police from the LEGO Club magazine from 2009 through 2010. I do not want to bore you by trying to turn this into an audiobook, so here are a couple close-ups and feel free to pause the video to read the story for yourself. In summary, Brick Daddy basically gets mad at being stuck in traffic and unintentionally pushes an undercover police cruiser out of the way, and the police give chase, only to have Kranxx come and rescue Brick Daddy, and the Space Police then regroup at headquarters, and you learn some very secret information on these crooks with a contest revealed at the very end. But before you think we're done, we have more to uncover. Released through the collectible minifigure series, this is what I would personally call Space Police 4, where they get yet another upgrade with another villain. Unfortunately, there is no official backstory for either of these characters, but one thing I wanted to point out is that the alien crook is unique because 1, he has a dual molded respirator, and 2, he appears to be an aquatic creature because he seems to have water tanks in the back of his suit. Surprisingly, one of the few modern collectible minifigures with a backstory is the space creature right here. According to the official LEGO.com description, the space creature was once a daring intergalactic criminal, but now she's the Space Police's newest recruit. On the pitch, she is not afraid to take risks and make bold moves. And with that, my friends, we have come to the end of the Space Police lore. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you learned something new. For those of you who are still watching and have not already seen it, I have a Space Police 4 short film right here at the end of the video. Thanks again, and until next time, keep building your universe.
Calling all Space Police units. Operation underway.
There are some pretty sly crooks out there in Galactic Sector 6. But that is where we come in, the Space Police. The tricky part is, those crooks know they are being watched. It is time to approach the suspects undercover. Unfortunately, our target is being guarded by the galaxy's most feared bounty hunter. Good news is, that is an easy fix. Hey, Hal, that's your bounty, the guy on the right. See? I told you that was easy. Hey, none of that. Mission successful. This is Space Police Undercover.
Attention Space Police units. Civilian under attack by bounty hunter. Proceed directly to Squidman's cafe.